Hello, and welcome to a somewhat short episode of Rassilon, Omega, and That Other Guy. So, I'm here. Sohail is not, but you do have the navigator qualified to tell you everything you need to know about TARDIS navigation. Unfortunately, Sohail and the other are off looking for the astral map, and it's back in the TARDIS somewhere, but they haven't managed to find it, and they've gotten lost. And honestly, it's been a couple weeks now. I'm starting to worry. Either they've gotten really lost and into trouble, or maybe the other and Sohel are have found some sort of great adventure together, or both. So yes, but for today, it's just me, and I have a somewhat short episode. We're just going to do a really juicy, at least I think it's juicy, TARDIS feature of the week. So, and if you like these shorter episodes and want to see more of them, then let us know. So, and subscribe and like if you enjoy learning about all of the secrets of the TARDIS from 60 years of 59 years of Doctor Who. So, and hopefully we will have something special and full length, probably ridiculously overlong, coming up soon. So, let's see here. Trying to figure out how to do the pictures without my genius with me. So it's just clumsy old me. So today's TARDIS feature of the week, or this week's TARDIS feature of the week. This is redundancy, Department of Redundancy. Must be a malfunction in the TARDIS. We are going to be taking a look at dematerialization procedures. Specifically, we're going to take a look at steps 1 through 3 of 15. And yes, I thought about actually doing all 15, but I don't think anyone wants to sit here and hear me read that much material. That much technobabble would kill even a Star Trek Voyager fan. So we're going to baby step our way through it and discuss in more detail and dig deep on steps 1 through 3. And then future TARDIS of the Week episodes will be covering steps 4 through 15. So, dematerialization is the first stage of making a space-time jump in a TARDIS. Since a TARDIS's endoshell is sealed in its own micro-universe, that is the pedestrian infrastructure that we've seen, it never moves. It sits outside of this universe in its own micro-universe. Sorry, presidential cat. Let's see. I think that's the 8th incarnation of the presidential cat there. So instead, the timeship's exoshell is transferred from normal space to the space-time vortex of the 5th dimension, and then eventually back into normal space when it rematerializes. So what moves isn't actually the interior, it's the exterior that's doing all the moving, because the exoshell and the endoshell are separated by a real-world interface. When we're talking about dematerializing the TARDIS, we're really just talking about dematerializing its exoshell. More presidential cat fun. Hello. Oh, all right. Back there we go then. Hello. Okay. So the 8th incarnation is quite frisky. So though there are 387 stages to a TARDIS vortex flight, almost all of these are handled by the infrastructure subsystems. There are 10 different safety protocols that are supposed to be enacted before a TARDIS dematerializes. There are only 5 steps that an operator must undertake to dematerialize a TARDIS from normal space and initiate. Let's just move on. Sorry. Yes, no Sohel, but all the presidential cats you could ask for. Well, which is to say one, but multiple incarnations. All right. So there are 10 different safety protocols that are supposed to be enacted before a TARDIS dematerializes, but aren't necessarily required or not essential to the process, but merely recommended safety protocols, like make sure you fasten your seatbelt and stuff. And certain Time Lords, like the renegade known as the Doctor, are known for ignoring all 10 of them most of the time. There are only 5 steps that an operator must undertake that are essential if they want to shift their TARDIS from normal space to the vortex. Each of these 5 steps has a progress light on the TARDIS. And let's see, I think we can get a better picture here. That's the TARDIS manual, but I think, let's see. Great. There, on the screen. Let's see. Can I off to the not this side on the opposite side of the console from my hand? You can see there are little lights, ping pong ball looking lights sticking out of the console. A row of 6, 3 on either side of that panel. And those are the progress lights that light up as various pieces of information are recorded. There are also progress lights located in the center panel that is displayed. The center panel is the navigation panel, and the panel to the right, to that side of the screen, is the helm station. So those two are essential for TARDIS piloting. Right, where's my notes? There they are. So there's progress lights all over the console. This process should not be taken lightly, if you'll pardon the pun. However, if a dematerialization is performed improperly, there's a possibility that lesser species inside the control room will be rendered unconscious, like Barbara and Ian in the first episode of Unearthly Child, where they were knocked out by the TARDIS because the Doctor didn't perform the dematerialization properly. Despite these dangers, Gallifreyan Time Lord security procedures dictate that the TARDIS information systems do not contain any flight instructions. So what you're getting right now is more information about how to fly the TARDIS than you will find in the TARDIS informational databank. So yes, now there is probably more in the actual physically printed TARDIS manuals in the TARDIS manual room. But if you just look it up on their little TARDIS computer, you won't find any flight instructions. So make sure you got the link to this video handy, which might be easier to find if you've subscribed. All right, let's take a look at the steps 1 through 3, which we're covering. And this is the programming of the navigational instruments. At least the first part of programming the navigational instruments. Right. So here, the current spatial coordinates and temporal location need to be programmed into a TARDIS's helmic orienters using the spatial location input controls. This is usually the last set of coordinates used, and they can be recalled from the flight recorder. And there in the picture right there is the flight recorder control systems, specifically the what is that, the far side of that picture, closest to the frame. So that's where the flight recorder is, and it'll record all the data from previous space-time jumps, and then you can pull that data out when you're ready to leave one time zone and jump to a new time zone. Thus, that saves you the trouble of having to refigure out all the coordinates. Just pull it out of the flight recorder and logs and input it into the helmic orienters. All flight information is sorted by the Banshee circuits, which serve as the flight recorder. Banshee circuits do a lot of other stuff in a TARDIS too, but we're not going to get into that today. So coordinates, space-time coordinates. As we said, well, let's see. Yeah, you need to know where you are before you can tell the computer where, or the computer needs to know where it is before you can tell it where it's going. So if you can't just tell it where it needs to be. If it doesn't know where it is, it'll get lost. So you always, the first step is the first step is always to input the coordinates that you are currently at, which should be pretty easy by pulling them out of the flight recorder. Now, the multidimensional space-time coordinates used by TARDISes for both the current space-time coordinates and the eventual desired space-time coordinates are given relative to galactic zero center, which is Gallifrey's Eye of Harmony near the center of Mutter's stellium spiral galaxy. The X, Y, Z, and N coordinates consist of 15 digits. Well, it may seem unlikely that a 15-digit set of coordinates could precisely locate any point in space, in all of space and time. It should be noted that Gallifreyans do not appear to have a base 10 counting system. So if you had a base, say, 60 counting system, then each one of those digits would be able to record 6 times as much information. And you would be able, a chain of a 15-digit set of coordinates would record massively more information than a 15-digit set for us, using our Arabic base 10 counting system. Now, we know the first 2 digits designate the vector for the TARDIS. The second 2 designate something called the quadrant. The next 7 digits represent the exact spatial location. And then the last 4 digits represent the temporal location relative to Gallifrey absolute time. These last digits, if you pull them up, will steadily advance as the TARDIS moves forward in time at a speed of 1 second per second, which may sound impressive, but you're doing that right now. Everything moves forward in time 1 second per second, or at least all normal bradiotic matter does. It should be noted that the directional units the directional unit does not do BC dates, before Christ or before Common Era, and that Gallifreyan dates are all positive. So if you try to input a negative date, it's going to throw an error. So if the space-time coordinates of the current location have changed since the last time the TARDIS materialized, say you got a bunch of unit squaddies to pick up your TARDIS and load it into a lorry and drive it from one end of the British Isles to the other, then the coordinates you pull out of your flight recorder are, of course, no longer going to be correct. So new coordinates will have to be input, and you're going to have to figure out what those new coordinates are. And that calculation is largely on you, though the astral map can be a huge help with that, if the other and Sohel ever find it. If the current coordinates are not precisely known, then an accurate course is, of course, impossible to plot. A course is a course, of course. So that's step 1. Figure out where you are. Step 2, setting the navigational slide controls. And I think, let's see there. There we go. So that's that done primarily at the navigation panel, specifically the controls, the row of controls with the row of black and silver controls, where one of the switches is red, and the top and the levers located above it that have red and yellow balls on them. Those are the slide controls for setting the navigational systems and enabling the various functions for course plotting. Those are also used to input your current coordinates if you couldn't just pull them out of the log. But yes, they're pretty much always, you're going to have to use them to input new coordinates for your new destination that you want to go to. Let's see. So the navigational slide controls, and depending on what desktop theme you have, some consoles have a keyboard or other types of things, but in the standard desktop theme, it's a slide control like you've seen, and the binary selectors are the controls are part of that, are used by the operator for setting the coordinates of the desired time zone. In theory, a fully functional and properly tuned TARDIS can be navigated to a temporal precision of a millisecond and within a meter of a desired spatial location. So again, those 15 digits are doing some heavy lifting when you realize just how big the universe is. There's definitely got to be something more than a base 10 system going on there. Anyway, so you can have a temporal precision of a millisecond or within a meter, spatially speaking. But to do so, coordinates must take into account the motion of the objects relative to a TARDIS's current location, the gravity's distortion of space-time, the exact time the operator wishes to travel to, the motion of the planets, the rotation of the planets, the motion of the star system and galaxy. As might be expected, it is even more tricky to materialize on a spaceship in flight that will no doubt be having a velocity vector that is tied to all of that other material, or almost all of those other factors in some way. And again, the astral map can be a great aid to a Time Lord in programming the coordinates if they take their time to use it. Again, another sort of safety check that the Doctor often omits. Once the numerical sequence has been figured out, setting the coordinates with the slide controls is actually a pretty simple matter. We actually see Leela do this in The Invisible Enemy, where the Doctor just is too sick to enter the coordinates himself, and he just reads them out to her, and she inputs them into the console while he's lying on the floor. The first 11 digits are inputted into the geographical and interstellar destination controls. The remaining 4 digits are inputted into the temporal destination controls. Now, this is not the only way you can input your destination coordinates. Navigational systems can be set up to follow a program that was preset in the computer, or a program that was stored in an external data source, perhaps like a DVD, like in Blink, where they carry the DVD on board and it automatically inputs the coordinates. A timer can also be set to engage the program if desired. So you can set the program and then set a timer, and the TARDIS will proceed on automatic when the timer runs out. If the TARDIS is receiving a signal from a spatial temporal alarm beacon, then it can triangulate those coordinates and use that signal as a destination to determine its destination coordinates. So if you happen to have somebody there with the beacon, or if you know you want to come back to someplace and you don't want to take the time to set the coordinates on the way back, you could perhaps leave a beacon there before you depart, and then it would be easy to find your way back to that place. If the operator desires, he can file a forward reference instead of setting the coordinates. This allows a TARDIS to dematerialize without setting any coordinates. And that could be handy if, like, you've decided you really need to take off right now. Like you just said goodbye to all the other characters in the story and stepped into the TARDIS and closed the door, and everybody's standing there staring at the door, including the cameraman, and the episode's going to roll credits in like 15 seconds. So you really want to dematerialize right now so that the TARDIS is gone before the credits roll at the end of the story. Then you can just file a forward reference and skip setting the coordinates until you're already in Vortex. Or in the Vortex. I've heard it both ways. I think that's kind of something like maybe Americans say in the Vortex and British people say in Vortex. But I think I've heard British people say in the Vortex as well. Anyway, so in this case, if you file a forward reference, the TARDIS will remain in limbo after dematerialization until the coordinates are finally patched in. Care should always be taken when setting the coordinates. If the coordinates are misset in such a way as to present the directional unit with an unsolvable equation, a symbolic resonance could occur in the trachoid time crystal, trapping a TARDIS in a fractal Xenos paradox forever. Such a paradox would send the TARDIS into the cracks between dimensions and prevent the TARDIS from ever materializing. The TARDIS would remain trapped until the vortex had eroded away everything in the TARDIS except its foundational principles. And yes, I mean, with a TARDIS being constructed out of pure concepts and ideas and equations, foundational principles could actually be all that's left, just some ideas floating there. The operator should always avoid traveling back in time without first altering the spatial coordinates. Always alter the spatial coordinates if you are going to travel backwards in time. If this is not done, the TARDIS might materialize inside its younger self. The TARDIS will use the cloister bell to warn the operator if the operator is about to do something this dumb. It will also ring the same bell if their coordinates are entered that would require the TARDIS to materialize inside solid matter. So, but proper maintenance is necessary to ensure accurate space-time jumps. If this maintenance is neglected for too long, the space-time programmer will wear out, much like the Doctor's has. For this reason, it's recommended to have for the Time Lord to have their TARDIS navigation systems recalibrated and serviced every 500 years. This is the 7th incarnation of the presidential cat. So yes, every 500 years, get your systems recalibrated. A hard impact to the navigational panel could knock the Zion crystals out of alignment, causing the pacivator to go into flux and leak green coolant into the atheopathic chamber. Without coolant, the positioning system will overheat and the thermal cutout will trigger, preventing any space-time trips from being made. If the coordinates should become fused, as the Doctor did to the Master when the Master was trying to steal his TARDIS in Utopia, a TARDIS would only be able to travel between its current coordinates that were locked in and the last time zone it visited. And even that is probably only capable of being achieved by using the fast return switch, which tends to bypass a lot of the other navigational systems. If without the fast return switch, the TARDIS probably would be completely immobile. The only other alternative going between those two locations would be to cannibalize the TARDIS's components to build a very limited osmic projector, which is a type of time machine used by Sontarans. Very primitive time travel, though. Not safe at all. Makes a vortex manipulator look like a hearse. So, step 3. That is step 2. Step 3. Now that all your coordinates have been inputted, both where you are and where you want to go, it is time to toggle the time-space forward-backward control. Depending on whether the operator wishes to travel to the relative future or past from their current point in space-time, the forward-backward control must be configured to a setting of forward, neutral, or backward. Obviously, if you don't want to travel at time at all, but just want to shift your spatial location, say saving yourself a commute to work or something, then neutral would be the setting you would use. And now here we're going to get speculative, but I'm quite fond of this little pet theory, this little headcanon of mine. So I'm going to dump it on you because it's my show. So TARDISes have been described as having their heart located inside the TARDIS, both in the 5th Doctor era and in the new era of Doctor Who, specifically the 9th Doctor era. Both times we see the heart is located in the TARDIS or in the console. However, in the 8th Doctor era, they're very clear about the heart of the TARDIS is in fact the copy Eye of Harmony that sits in the cloister room. And in fact, the 5th Doctor comments that the heart of the TARDIS is not the control room, but is in fact very deep in the TARDIS. So at first, I kind of just ignored this because, I guess it's just different writers not paying attention, and sometimes Doctor Who doesn't make sense, right? And we just have to kind of grimace and bear it. However, one day I realized something. Time Lords have 2 hearts. So, well, we think of a heart of something as being a singular thing, a one item. The heart of a Time Lord technology is probably binary. There's probably 2 hearts. Whenever they use the word heart to refer to something, they're going to be referring to one of the 2 hearts. So actually, culturally speaking, given that they're using the word heart, it makes perfect sense that there would be the main space-time element located in the console and the block transfer copy of the Eye of Harmony located in the cloister room, and both of those would be the heart or a heart. So I think that nicely actually. In fact, it seems obvious in hindsight. You would expect that Time Lords would never use the term heart to refer to something that there was only one of. So, next bit of headcanon. Again, headcanon, whereas everything else I've told you has been approved by the BBC in some way, shape, or form. This is a bit of a speculation on my part. Both of these hearts have been described as the primary power source for the TARDIS. Yet the main space-time element is described as drawing its power from the vortex. And the Eye of Harmony is described as a giant power source that the TARDIS carries around with it. And in fact has to charge up every now and then when it stops off at the Cardiff Rift, at least after the primary Eye of Harmony on Gallifrey is disabled. So how can they both be the power source? Why does it need two power sources? For a while I toed around, well, cars have a battery and have a gas engine, or at least at the time of recording, that's fairly common. But I then realized, I thought a more interesting and elegant bit of headcanon. What if the TARDIS can work like a motorboat with a sail, and it's got two different modes of propulsion, two different power sources that can power it through the water. It's got a motor engine that runs on gasoline, like the akin to the Eye of Harmony, and it's got a sail that can catch the wind, because they talk about how the vortex is filled with Artron energy, or at least has Artron energy in it, and traveling through the vortex will expose you to Artron energy. Oh yes, presidential cat. So as you travel through the TARDIS, and they talk about the eye of the main space-time element, heart in the TARDIS being able to draw energy from the vortex. So why does it need an Eye of Harmony if it can draw energy from the vortex? My theory is it can only collect Artron energy when it's traveling forward in time. And bear with me here. Oh no, I can't. The presidential cats seem to be getting into a bit of a tiff over here, like the second and third doctors. These incarnations don't always get along well. Okay, so it is known, it's been stated in the books, I think Anachrophobia, that forward time travel costs about 1,400 more times energy, backward time travel costs about 1,400 times more energy than traveling forward in time. What if that's because when you're traveling forward in time, you get to soak up you're going with the flow of history, and you can collect all that sweet Artron energy from all of the perceptions of all sapient life in the entire cosmos, and you can collect it and use it to power your engines as you go forward, like a sail collects the wind. But if you have to go backwards in time, you are cut off from that vortex energy, and you have to rely on the energy that is either being carried by you or that is being broadcast through block transfer mapping from the prime Eye of Harmony on Gallifrey to the copy Eye of Harmony inside your TARDIS's cloister room. And so the TARDIS's energy demands go way up if it's traveling backwards in time by over a factor of 1,000. So yes, and so depending on if you're going forward or backwards, you're going to be relying more heavily on one heart or the other to power the ship. And so yeah, both hearts power the ship, depending on whether you're going forward or backwards. And this gets back to step 3 that we were talking about, why you need to set this forward backward space-time control is so that the TARDIS will know which eye it should be, or which is going to be the primary source of energy for powering this flight. At least that's my fan theory. So give me a comment in there if you have a better one for why we need to have this forward backward control when it seems like the TARDIS should be able to figure that out from knowing the current coordinates and the desired coordinates. It should be a simple math thing, but maybe you need this separate lever because you're shifting the entire power system from like a hybrid car that runs on gas and runs on battery. You're swapping it out because of the type of driving you're going to be doing. And that's just because of its fundamental nature to the car, needs to be its own switch. As a bit of an add-on to this fan theory, it might be that this ability to collect Artron energy versus not collect it could explain why vortex wormholes are sometimes depicted as different colors depending on whether one is traveling forward or backwards in time. But that could be just some other sort of, that could be for some other reason. So all right. Well, that's steps 1, 2, and 3. Programming the navigational instruments. And that's all I've got time for this week. I'm sorry. I know you'd like to probably hear about the next steps. Yeah, here, I'll give you a little taster. Where is that? I've got the oh dear. What did I do with that list? I thought it was, apologies. I thought it was right here. There it is. So as a teaser, and I don't know if I don't know if we'll be getting to this next week or when. It'll probably happen next time that both the other and Sohel are unavailable for recording. But we talked about steps 1, 2, and 3. Set the coordinates for the present. Set the coordinates that you want to go to. Set the space-time forward-backward control. Then we have to deal with the computer acceptance, transferring those coordinates into the course acceptance unit, checking the destination, powering up the atom accelerator, adjusting the Heisenberg focusing device, checking the doors, undoing the lockdown mechanism, releasing the handbrake, activating the inertial dampeners, engaging the harmonic generator, throwing the engine release lever, activating the master dematerialization switch, and gradually increasing the space-time throttle. And all of those will be covered in later episodes. It's probably going to take us a few TARDIS features to get through all of it, but by the end of it, you should have a pretty good idea of at least of how a TARDIS travels through space and time. Certainly much better than anyone who actually read the TARDIS databanks. But until then, if you can't wait for more knowledge, check out all the Time Lore at allthingstimelord.com, where you can also download my TARDIS technical index and PDF. Let's see here. I forgot. I haven't been keeping up on the pictures. Yes. Oh, there, that white control there with the 2 black knobs. That is the forward backward control. So one of those levers is for forward, one is for backwards, and if they're both stationary, both matching, then you've got neutral. So I was going to show that. Sorry, not used to juggling all of this. Usually I've got Sohail here. He's really good at helping pull all this together and making it look professional. Today you're stuck with me. So but yes, there's my website, Rassilon Omega and that other guy at allthingstimelords.com. And now let's talk a little bit about the future. I already told you that we might be getting into so much cat. Getting into these other TARDIS steps in TARDIS dematerialization, and maybe eventually we'll get to vortex flight and rematerialization. But I am hoping before the end of the year and to have a bit of a Christmas special here. And I'm going to let the time scanner see if it can figure out what our Christmas special will be. So looking at it, it is, what is that? It's getting clear. Okay. It's the dead planet. Yes. No, it's changing. It's the survivors. All right, it's changing again. The escape. Yes, the escape. No, no, that's not it either. Okay. Reforming. The ambush. No, no, it's changing again. The expedition. Okay. Yes. No. No, it's changing. The ordeal. Okay. Sorry about this. It usually settles down. There must be a lot of quantum Heisenberg uncertainty going on in the system. I guess I should have turned on the Heisenberg uncertainty generator or the Heisenberg generator. Okay, what else? It's got a new one up here. Let's see if this is the rescue. Ah, yes, the rescue. The one with Vicky. Yep. No, it's changing again. Beyond the sun. Okay, beyond the sun. All right, all right. No, no, here we go. Another one. Another one. The mutants. The mutants. Oh, okay. That's a John Pertwee story. Okay. That one's fun. That's no, no, no. It's okay. It's getting clear. It's the Daleks. Okay. Well, why didn't you just say that in the first place? Okay. Hopefully we can get that out before the end of the year. So see you all later in these time and relative dimension in space.